Red and blue lights washed over the riverbank like a warning the town was too late to hear. The water moved slow, black as oil, carrying leaves and reflections of patrol cars that refused to stay still. A deputy stood knee-deep at the edge, staring down at something caught against the reeds. No one spoke. The radios went quiet. When the flashlight beam finally settled, the crowd behind the tape leaned forward as one. It wasn't a body. Not yet. It was a shoe, mud-slick, laces cut clean through, wedged where the current softened. A woman's shoe. Size 7. Gray with a scuffed heel. The kind you wear when you plan to be back before dark. By sunrise, the name was everywhere. Lena Ward. 32. Community volunteer. Book club organizer. The woman who knew everyone's dog by name and never missed a school fundraiser. She had vanished the night before, somewhere between the community center and her car. Her phone last pinged near the river, then went silent. The shoe made it real. The river made it worse. Detective Mark Ellison arrived as the tape went up. He had the look of someone who knew how this story usually ended but wasn't ready to say it out loud. He crouched by the water, studied the reeds, the scuffed bank, the broken cattails. A disturbance. A struggle, maybe. Or maybe just panic. He stood, scanning the faces behind him, neighbors, friends, volunteers, people who wanted answers and didn't know they were about to get them. They started with what they always started with, the last people who saw her. Lena had stayed late at the community center, sorting donated books for the weekend fair. The sign-in sheet showed 2 names after 9 p.m. hers, and one other. Daniel Price. Everyone trusted Daniel. He ran logistics for the center, keys, schedules, cameras. The guy who fixed the coffee machine and remembered birthdays. He was the one who locked up when the last light went out. When officers knocked on his door that morning, he answered in socks, hair still damp, worry already set in his face like he'd rehearsed it. "I was the last one there," he said, voice steady. She waved goodbye. Walked to her car. I watched her leave. He offered his phone without being asked. Location services on. Messages open. Nothing deleted. He even asked if he could help organize searches. He had a map. He had names. He had time. Ellison noted it all and felt the old tug of caution. People who rushed to help weren't always innocent, but sometimes they were just terrified of being next. The first day blurred into a second. Search teams combed the riverbank, the parking lot, the tree line behind the center. Dogs tracked Lena's scent to the water and lost it. A diver found nothing. The shoe stayed on a folding table under a tarp, tagged and photographed, waiting to tell its part of the story. The town held its breath. Daniel became a fixture. He brought coffee to the command post. He hugged Lena's sister when she cried. He spoke to the press with careful concern, asking anyone with information to come forward. She wouldn't just leave, he said. She loved this place. Ellison watched him from across the lot, trying to feel something he could trust. They pulled Lena's phone records. The last call was to voicemail. The last text, sent at 9:47 p.m., was a photo of a half-packed box of books with the caption, "Almost done." No response. No struggle sounds captured. Nothing obvious. They pulled Daniel's records, too. Clean. No late-night calls. No location spikes. His phone stayed home after 10 p.m., exactly where he said it was. The cameras were next. The community center had 12, all managed by the same system. Daniel had installed it himself after a break-in years back. Better coverage, he'd said. Better peace of mind. The footage from the front door showed Lena locking up at 9:42 p.m., smiling as she tugged on her jacket. Daniel followed a minute later, flipping off lights, keys jangling. They spoke briefly, no audio, then split. Lena headed left toward the lot. Daniel went right, toward the side entrance. At 9:44, Lena's car lights flashed. At 9:45, she drove out of frame. Case closed on the cameras. Or so it seemed. Ellison didn't like how neat it was. He asked for raw files. Not clips. Not exports. Everything. The tech from the department hesitated. System's old, he said. Exports compress. Might lose detail. Then don't export, Ellison said. I want the originals. It took hours. While they waited, a volunteer found Lena's car parked 3 blocks away, untouched, unlocked. No signs of a break-in. Her bag was on the passenger seat. Her keys were missing. The town's mood shifted from worry to fear. By nightfall, the river search resumed. Floodlights cut white paths across the water. The shoe stayed alone. The tech finally arrived with a hard drive and a look that suggested something had gone wrong. Ellison took it into a quiet room, dimmed the lights, and pressed play. They watched the front doors again. Same as before. Lena. Daniel. The split. Ellison scrubbed back. Frame by frame. He counted seconds between Lena's car lights and her exit from frame. Normal. Unremarkable. Then he pulled up the side entrance. The angle was bad, grainy, half obscured by a banner flapping in the wind. Daniel entered at 9:43. He disappeared inside. The camera timestamp ticked on. At 9:46, the door opened again. Daniel stepped out. Ellison leaned forward. The tech swallowed. Daniel stood there for a moment, looking down the alley. He checked his watch. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and pale. He dropped it into the storm drain. Ellison paused the frame. Zoom, he said. They zoomed until the pixels broke apart. A key. Not just any key. A car key, with a chipped plastic head, the kind Lena kept on a blue ring. Ellison's chest tightened. Run the timeline, he said. From the front door. They synced the feeds. The moment Lena's car lights flashed, Daniel was already outside. He hadn't gone inside at all. The split had been staged by the angles. The overlap hidden by compression. He hadn't watched her leave. He'd followed her. Ellison stood, the room suddenly too small. Outside, someone laughed, nervous, hollow. The town was still trusting. Still searching. Still believing in the man with the keys and the coffee and the camera system he controlled. Ellison looked at the paused frame again, the key mid-fall, the banner caught in the wind like it was trying to warn them. But when they reviewed the uncompressed footage, the tech said quietly, "There's more." Ellison turned back to the screen as the next clip loaded, one camera they hadn't checked yet, pointed at a place no one ever thought to look. And when the image sharpened, everything they thought they knew collapsed. The camera angle was wrong on purpose. That was the first thing Detective Ellison noticed as the image sharpened. It wasn't pointed at a door or a hallway or anything that suggested safety. It faced the service alley behind the community center, the strip of concrete everyone ignored because nothing ever happened there. The lens was tilted slightly downward, the corner of the frame eaten by shadow, like someone had nudged it just enough to miss the obvious. At 9:46 p.m., the alley was empty. At 9:47, a figure stepped into view. Lena. She moved fast, almost jogging, one arm tight against her side like she was holding on to something precious. Her head turned sharply over her shoulder, eyes wide, mouth open as if she were calling out. There was no sound, but Ellison could see it anyway, the shape of panic. Then Daniel Price entered the frame behind her. Not rushing. Not grabbing. Walking with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly how much time he had. He raised one hand, palm open, the universal gesture for wait. Lena slowed. She stopped. She turned toward him. The distance between them closed. Ellison watched Daniel reach into his pocket. Not quickly. Deliberately. He held something out to her. The camera couldn't capture what it was, but Lena's shoulders dropped. Relief flooded her posture so visibly it made Ellison's jaw clench. Trust is a powerful thing. They spoke for nearly 30 seconds. No audio. Just mouths moving, hands gesturing. Daniel pointed toward the side door, then toward the lot, then back toward the alley. Lena nodded once. She handed him something, her keys. At 9:49 p.m., they walked out of frame together. The room went silent. The tech broke it first. "That camera wasn't supposed to be there," he said. "It's not on the building map." Ellison didn't answer. He was already on his feet, the shape of the next 48 hours forming in his mind. "Lock this footage down," he said. "No copies. No leaks." Outside, the command post hummed with movement. Volunteers came and went. News vans idled. Daniel was there, leaning against a folding table, talking softly to Lena's sister. When he saw Ellison, he straightened, concern flickering across his face. "Any updates?" Daniel asked. "Anything at all?" Ellison held his gaze. "We need you to come in," he said. "Just to clear a few things up." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Of course," he said. "Anything." At the station, the interview room lights buzzed faintly. Daniel sat with his hands folded, posture relaxed, eyes attentive. He told the same story again, locked up, waved goodbye, went home. He even apologized for repeating himself. "I know you're under pressure," he said. "I just want to help." Ellison slid a still frame across the table. Daniel looked down. It was the moment in the alley. Lena mid-step. Daniel's hand extended. For half a second, nothing changed. Then Daniel smiled. "That's not what it looks like," he said calmly. "I knew you'd find that." Ellison felt the temperature in the room drop. "You want to explain it?" Daniel leaned back. "Lena forgot her keys," he said. "She panicked. I heard her in the alley. I followed her out, gave them back. That's all." "And the storm drain?" Ellison asked. "The key you dropped?" Daniel's smile tightened. "My spare," he said. "Old. Broken. I was going to throw it out anyway." Ellison let the silence stretch. He watched Daniel's breathing slow, measured. A man who believed in his own control. "What about the camera?" Ellison asked. "The one that wasn't supposed to be there." Daniel shrugged. "Extra coverage," he said. "I told the board years ago. They never updated the map." Ellison ended the interview without a charge. There wasn't enough. Not yet. As Daniel left, he placed a hand briefly on Ellison's shoulder. "You're doing good work," he said. "This town needs you." Ellison watched him walk away and felt something cold settle in his chest. That night, the river gave up nothing. But the next morning, a jogger found Lena's phone beneath a bridge 2 miles downstream. Dry. Clean. Placed, not dropped. The pattern sharpened. Ellison pulled Daniel's background apart piece by piece. No record. No debt. No obvious motive. But patterns don't live in records, they live in behavior. He spoke to people Daniel had worked with over the years. They all said the same thing. Reliable. Kind. The guy you trust with the keys. One woman hesitated, then admitted Daniel had once insisted on walking her to her car after a late meeting. "It felt unnecessary," she said. "But I didn't think anything of it." Another mentioned Daniel's habit of fixing cameras himself. "He said vendors were expensive," the man said. "We let him handle it." Ellison requested a warrant for Daniel's home electronics. It took 12 hours. By the time they arrived, the house was spotless. Too spotless. No computer. No hard drives. The router had been reset. Daniel stood in the doorway, polite as ever. "You're welcome to look," he said. "I have nothing to hide." They found a locked room in the basement. Daniel's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Storage," he said. "Old files. The warrant didn't cover it." Ellison noted the lock. Heavy. New. That afternoon, the press ran the footage of Lena leaving the center. The part in the alley didn't air. Someone leaked a still, blurry, inconclusive. The town split into camps. Those who believed in Daniel, and those who didn't know what to believe anymore. That night, Ellison sat alone in his office, replaying the alley footage frame by frame. He noticed something he'd missed before. A reflection. A sliver of glass catching light as Daniel reached out. A camera. Not the alley camera. Another one. Smaller. Hidden. Ellison froze the frame and enhanced it. The reflection resolved into a dark oval pin inside Daniel's jacket. A body cam. Not issued. Personal. Ellison's phone buzzed. The text name lit the screen. "You need to see this," the text said. Now. Back in the evidence room, a new video played. Grainy. First person. Timestamped 9:46 p.m. The alley. Lena's face filled the frame as she spoke, relief breaking through fear. "I thought I lost them," she said, laughing shakily. Daniel's voice came next, calm and close. "You're okay," he said. "I've got you." The video cut abruptly. Ellison's hands clenched into fists. "Where did this come from?" "Anonymous upload," the text said. "Encrypted. Sent 10 minutes ago." Ellison's mind raced. Daniel hadn't erased everything. He'd curated it. Controlled it. And now someone, or something, was pushing back. Ellison grabbed his coat. "Get a team to Daniel's house," he said. "Now." As they pulled up, the front door stood open. Lights on. Silence heavy. In the basement, the locked room door hung ajar. Inside, the walls were lined with monitors, live feeds from cameras across town. Alleys. Parking lots. Back doors. Places where trust walked alone. And in the center of the room, a chair sat empty, restraints cut clean through. On the largest screen, a single message blinked into view. "You were supposed to trust me." The basement screens went dark one by one, as if the house itself were closing its eyes. The message lingered for a breath longer than the rest, then vanished. Detective Ellison stood in the doorway, the smell of cold electronics and fresh paint thick in the air, and understood something that made his stomach drop. Daniel hadn't been hiding from the investigation. He'd been watching it. Teams fanned out across the house. Nothing personal. No photos. No keepsakes. A life reduced to tools and access. In a drawer beneath the monitors, Ellison found a spiral notebook filled with neat handwriting, dates, times, names. Not victims. Opportunities. Places where people were alone and expected safety. Places with cameras Daniel had installed, adjusted, or quietly redirected. On the last page, a single line was underlined twice. "Trust creates blind spots." The city woke up angry. News vans lined the block. Protest signs appeared by noon. Some demanded answers. Others demanded apologies. "He helped us," one woman shouted at a reporter. "He fixed our locks." The betrayal cut deeper because it had worn such a friendly face. Ellison assembled the task force and laid it out clean. Daniel Price was mobile, tech-savvy, and disciplined. He carried his own cameras and knew where the city didn't look. He'd staged footage, seeded leaks, and erased trails. The anonymous upload hadn't been a mistake, it was bait. "Why now?" someone asked. Ellison didn't answer. He was staring at the alley frame again, the moment Lena's fear softened into relief. He thought of the storm drain key. The placed phone. The empty chair. "Because he wants to be seen," Ellison said finally. "On his terms." They found the second message at dusk, hidden in plain sight. A QR code taped to a community bulletin board across from the center. Scanned, it opened a live feed, a shaky view from inside a moving car. The city slid past in fragments, brick, neon, or river flash. The audio crackled. "You're late," Daniel's voice said, amused. "I told you where to look." Ellison's phone rang immediately after. "Unknown number." "Mark," Daniel said, using his first name like an old friend. "You finally watched the whole movie." "Where is she?" Ellison asked. A pause. Tires hissed over wet pavement. "You already know the answer to that," Daniel said softly. "You just don't know where to stand to see it." Ellison closed his eyes. "You released the video," he said. "You want something." "I want you to understand," Daniel replied. "This city runs on faith. Faith in systems. Faith in faces. I showed you how easy it is to guide a story." "Turn yourself in," Ellison said. "End this." Daniel laughed. "Endings are overrated." The feed cut. A new file auto-downloaded to the task force server, coordinates. Not precise. A radius that swallowed half a mile of riverfront warehouses scheduled for demolition. They move fast. Sirens off. Radios low. The river breathed in the dark, heavy with rain upstream. Inside one warehouse, a generator hummed. Light spilled through cracked windows. Ellison entered first. The space opened wide and empty, dust floating in the beams. At the center stood a tripod and a chair. The chair was empty. The tripod held a camera aimed at the door. A speaker crackled to life. "I knew you'd come," Daniel said. His voice filled the room, calm and close. "Stand where the tape ends." Ellison did. The camera lens stared back, unblinking. "Do you see it?" Daniel asked. Ellison scanned the walls. Old posters peeled away. A faint scuff near the floor. He followed it to a corner and found a painted rectangle, lighter than the rest, roughly door-sized. The outline of something removed. "A hidden room," Ellison said. "Yes," Daniel replied. "And a lesson." Ellison pried at the edge. The panel gave way with a sigh, revealing a narrow space. Inside, bolted to the wall, was a small, battered camera. Its red light glowed. Ellison's throat tightened. "You recorded everything." "Of course," Daniel said. "Stories need proof." Ellison reached for the camera. The speaker cut out. The generator died. Darkness pressed in. When the lights snapped back, the room was empty again. No Daniel. No footsteps. Only the camera in Ellison's hand and the weight of what it contained. Back at the station, they watched the footage in silence. Lena, alive, speaking clearly. Not pleading. Explaining. "He said the cameras were broken," she told the lens, voice steady. "He said he needed my help to test something. I trusted him." The video jumped. Timestamps skipped. The picture steadied on the river at dawn. A hand entered frame, Daniel's, placing something gently at the water's edge. Lena's shoe. The implication landed like a blow. He hadn't killed her by the river. He'd staged the river to end the search. The final clip loaded without a title. Lena sat in the chair, unharmed, eyes fixed on Daniel behind the camera. "You said you'd let me go," she said. "I will," Daniel replied. "Where they'll never look." The clip ended. The room breathed again. Phones rang. Orders flew. But the truth had already escaped its cage. Daniel hadn't left a body. He'd left a story designed to exhaust the city until it stopped believing in anything at all. They found Lena 3 days later, alive, locked inside a maintenance corridor beneath a shopping complex scheduled for renovation. She was dehydrated, shaken, but breathing. She told Ellison Daniel had fed her information, dates, headlines, reactions. He'd watched the town fracture and smiled. "He said I'd be safer once you stopped trusting the wrong people," she whispered. Daniel Price was never found. Months passed. The city installed new cameras, hired new vendors, promised transparency. Ellison testified. The task force disbanded. The river returned to itself. On a quiet evening, Ellison received an email from an untraceable address. No text. Just a video. A familiar alley. A familiar banner flapping in the wind. A reflection in glass, an oval, dark and patient. A caption appeared, typed one letter at a time. Trust is a habit. Habits return. Ellison closed his laptop and stared out at the city lights, knowing the most dangerous thing Daniel had taken wasn't footage or faith. It was certainty. And if you think this case was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe so you don't miss what's watching from the edges of the frame.